Hello, everybody. Welcome to twitch.tv/the Onyx Path, where today we have gathered for session 7, hard to believe it, of our regular Trinity Continuum Aeon Storypath Nexus writing sessions. So, the purpose of our show, as always, is to get together, work on an upcoming Storypath Nexus release as a group. So just kind of hanging out, doing a little bit of writing. The current adventure we're working on is called Assault on Nemesis Station, and that is a um, basically an adventure for Trinity Continuum Aeon. The theory being it is set on a sort of mining colony in the asteroid belt, an asteroid called Nemesis, hence the name Nemesis Station. And we've just been sort of building that together as we go. If you have any questions about the Storypath Nexus, you can find those answers over at Drive-Thru RPG. Storypath Nexus is basically a community content program. Well, it is a community content program that allows you to create your own games using the intellectual properties of Onyx Path within certain limitations. So you can get all the rules and all the information that you need to know about that at the link I'm throwing in the chat right now. Again, that is basically within certain limitations, you can build and release these game supplements using various Storypath systems. There's one for Trinity Continuum. Scion has its own set of rules. Dystopia Rising Evolution is up there, and they came from a few of the they came from lines. You're only allowed to do the lines that are specifically called out in the releases. Generally speaking, those are lines that have fully been released to the public. The books are out. Usually, if something has been kickstarted or something like that, it doesn't get added to the Nexus pool of IP until after it's been physically released. In addition to working on our creation today, I also want to bring up two kind of cool things going on. One, we are raising funds as part of Make a Wish's Roll for Wishes campaign. That's going on all month long. So I've thrown the link to that in the chat if you would be so kind as to donate. We reached our first goal yesterday during a lovely Trinity Continuum stream I had a chance to be a player on. So thank you to everyone who donated to that. But we're going to try to keep pushing. Let's see if we can smash that goal. Let's see if we can hit 300% of that goal. So if you've not yet done so, or if you have and you still have a few extra bucks in your pocket, head over and donate to that link. Also, speaking of charitable organizations and causes, we do have a bundle that's currently available. A Skylands 5e bundle over at Bundle Holding, and a portion of the proceeds from that go to benefit our friends over at the Bodana Group. It's a charity that deals with mental health in the tabletop role playing space using tabletop role playing tools to accent mental health treatments, things along those lines. Really cool charity. They have a convention coming up called Save Against Fear. I think it's like next month in Pennsylvania. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you can head over to the bundle holding link there. They've got two bundles. There's basically a basic Scarlands 5th edition bundle, has all the core rule books for Scarlands, things along those lines in it. And then there's the expanded bundle, which is a bit more expensive, but also contains Dead Man's Rust, Vigil Watch, a couple of other supplemental materials that can really enrich your game. So definitely head over there and pick that up. Again, it goes to support a wonderful cause. So I think that pretty much. Oh, yeah. One last thing I suppose I should mention: the world below is coming to backer backer kit Kickstarter. I should probably pay closer attention to the Monday meeting notes, huh? World below begins raising funds on the suspense I know is killing you. It's killing me. Backer kit. Hey, look at that. Surprised us both. Um, the backer kit for the World Below starts in just over 5 days. And you can head over to the link I am throwing in the chat right now to sign up and get notified when that is going live. World Below is a very cool, brand new setting. Using Storypath Ultra, I had the chance to work on a significant portion of the book. It was a lot of fun. Also got to get to now share credits with the legendary Ed Greenwood, which is also super fun. So definitely check it out. I'm really proud of what we did for that book, and I would love if you would get involved, check out the backer kit, and support it when it goes into its crowdfunding phase. All right. Now, as they say in broadcasting, the bills are paid, so we can get down to the fun parts. So every week between shows, I try to get some work done on this, so I'm not doing everything live. And this is the first week I've managed to get any of it done. So just a quick recap of where we were. We had gotten through our intro, kind of writing our reasons why people are here, breakdown, and we've started writing the first scene. I'm sorry, we've started writing the second scene. The first scene is really kind of that whole intro section. So we talk about the logistics of when they arrive, what do they see, what's going on, and the ways that they can get into the complex itself. We got some rules for hacking the doors. We have some rules for them physically breaking through the walls to get inside, and what explosive decompression will do if they decide to go that route. So we've noted that they can do some information gathering while they are passing through the sort of rubble strewn area, gaining clues that way. We've inserted a story guide character, a mine worker by the name of Jennifer Fox, who is pinned under some rubble. The characters might find and rescue her and ask her for some questions to get a little insight into what is going on or what has gone on at Nemesis Station. And then what I've added in here, the main sort of goal of scene 2 is to get to the central security area. It lets them have access to the computer, lets them gain more information. And so basically just added in kind of what is going on with central security when the characters arrive. And then I've added in the details for the central security system, which is a slightly better agent than the one that's on the front door. Not by much. It just has a higher social pool. And is running the same apps, has the same attitudes, so on and so forth. In fact, let me just make sure. Yeah, we want to make sure we have the attitude. And we'll give it a negative attitude of 3 toward intrusion. I think we want to make it a little bit harder to sort of break into than the front door, obviously. With a negative attitude of 3 toward intrusion. And so using the following traits. I usually try to avoid the following It's just it sticks in my craw as being a little bit too generic of a phrase, but also it just unfortunately kind of works a lot. Um, so there you have it. Sometimes you just need to use what works, even if it does feel a little cliche. So, um, what do we got cooking? We got once inside the group can attempt to gain access to the security system and cameras. The system is managed by an agent with a negative attitude of 3 toward intrusion using the following traits: mental 4, social 4, and running. We'll say and running, and an electronic infiltration app to represent its security features. Excellent. So that basically shows us with the hacking rules they're laid out, and again I reference them. Right now it's on the same page. Art might shift that. Right now it's on the same page as the last time there's a hacking reference, but I just want to make sure that the story guide does not miss that sort of pointed direction toward the rules, toward the pertinent rules. So, um, I really do hate that phrase, following. I'm going to try to get rid of it. All right. Once inside the group can attempt to gain access to the security system. The system is managed by an agent with a negative attitude of 3 toward intrusion. The agent traits are mental 4, social 4, and it is running an electronic infiltration app to represent its security features. Beautiful, better, I like it better. All right. Okay, so now we have our sort of. These are the ways that the characters can gain clues. They can gain clues walking through the building, trying to get to central security, which for a number of reasons they're going to want to do depending on which hook we've brought them in through. Um, so they can also, if they do in fact rescue and revive poor Miss Fox, who is pinned under some rubble, they can interrogate her for some clues. And then, of course, once they get inside, they can remotely investigate all the rooms um, with an enhancement uh, when making rolls to gather clues. I'm going to note in here that uh, due to camera coverage throughout the station, all areas can be seen via the security system. This enables the party to investigate all areas, all internal. Well, we'll say all areas of the station. Camera coverage throughout the station, all internal and external, interior and exterior areas can be seen via the security system. This enables the party to investigate all areas of the station remotely if they've accessed the system, if they've gained control of the system. I realize it's probably like weird, and it's funny when you're doing something like this where you're like doing a live reading or live writing and you're reading kind of at the same time. You learn things about the way that you do stuff that you wouldn't have known or thought of before. Like, for example, I didn't realize until I started doing this show how much I start a phrase when I'm writing and rewrite that phrase in the middle of writing it. It's just a weird quirk of my writing style, I guess, that I notice. And some of that I think has to do with the, you know, old sort of writing trick that the tip that I will beat to death if permitted to do so, to read your work out loud. And because as you read your work out loud, you discover nuances, better ways of phrasing. You can pick out things that are clumsy or clunky or just unfun, and correct them because you can hear it. I have a very personally have a very like linguistic internal monologue. I hear things in my thoughts the way that I hear conversation. So it's a little bit less of a problem for me. Um, but that doesn't mean I don't still do it to double check and make sure there's really no substitute for reading your stuff back to yourself. Um, okay, so we have the mechanisms by which the characters can investigate, pretty well laid out at this point. We know the ways they can gather information. So now that that's there, what we want to do is break down our clues, right? Uh, we know that we want the clues to point to an aberrant activity. We want to save the cultist for later reveal. And we know that the comms are down and backup is difficult to reach. So, investigating the. Oh. See, now we have a problem. I accidentally brought up to the bullet style. Okay. So, going back to N. Sorry about that little formatting issue. Once again, if you're working in Word, this is a slightly less of an issue than working directly in InDesign. And again, I just prefer to work directly in InDesign from personal preference, so I can kind of see what I'm doing while I'm formatting books. It makes it a lot easier to notice formatting issues, in my humble opinion. All right. So investigating. Investigating the station. Yeah, investigating the station yields these clues. And then we go into our bullets and we bullet point our clues. We want to make sure that we cover our core clues. In Trinity Continuum, you have two types of clues, and I'm going to just bring that up real quick. In the what it says in the procedurals chapter, I'm going to read that verbatim. The Trinity Continuum has two types of clues: core clues and alternative clues. Core clues are necessary to continue the plot. Finding a core clue just requires being in the right situation to discover the clue. No roll is necessary. Some core clues may require a specific skill to notice, such as having ranks in the medicine skill to realize that someone has been poisoned. But the story guide can also choose to drop core clues as consolation for a failed roll. Okay. And then when the character wants more information, they roll. Assembling the dice pool, the player sets one of their dice aside as an automatic success. So that's interesting. So what we want to do here is we want to arrange a series of core clues that are going to push the plot forward that characters are automatically going to know effectively. They're going to learn. It's sort of necessary for the plot to move forward. And we want to add in a couple of other clues to sort of pepper in things that they might either get with exceptionally successful rolls, or if they work to refine or expand those clues. A couple things you can do: you can gain alternate clues, you can interpret the data, you can analyze, research, uh, sort of gather additional resources effectively, refining those clues, squeezing more information out of the clues you've gotten. So there's a couple different ways to introduce new avenues of information. So having said all that, let's dive in and get our clues knocked out. We want our core clues. Okay, first off, the station was attacked by aberrants. That's core clue. By the time it's all done, the players should know that aberrants were responsible. We're going to have a core clue. The aberrants arrived through a tunnel. They blasted how about we start? Let's back this up. The aberrants arrived through a hole in the floor of the ground level. This hole leads to a tunnel blasted through rock, through the rocky surface. And we're going to have another core clue. We'll say the aberrants abducted several ICE employees and retreated through the hole they arrived, but retreated the way they came. Right, so now we have our three core clues, right? These are the three things that the adventurers need to know in order to move the plot forward and get to the next scene, okay? So everything else now is stuff we can sort of pepper in to add flavor, to make it more interesting, to better prepare them for the scenes to come without giving away the entirety of the plot, right? So what's the first thing that we can do? We can say, let's see, and what we should do is add any sort of like cost and successes for the clue, if any, to these additional clues. And I'm just going to go back. I always like to go back and sort of re-reference things that have already been written and published, just to sort of double check on formatting and things along those lines. Make sure that it's consistent. So I'm going to bring up, I know that the Adventures of Teen Tomorrow has some investigation in it because I developed that one. So let's dive in here. Okay, so we don't necessarily need to list our number of successes unless there are more than one, and we can dive right into the alternative clue descriptions. Great, so let's just lose core clue here. And we'll say the first thing we want to make sure that we do is we give them as much information as we possibly can about what they're going to face. So we'll say the aberrants I'm going to go over here and check our antagonist sheets, right? We've already sort of looked through what those are. Um, so we're going to assume that probably our nemesis scale maybe was the one who uh, burst through, created those tunnels, brought us to where we're going. Let's check. Let's check those powers. So they have disruption. Maybe they could have melted their way through. Let's check and see what everybody else has. We might even be able to. I'd like to keep it to sort of like the mooks being responsible as much as possible, because that also can sort of, if they get a really good result, we may be able to justify them sort of knowing that this is a sub-aberrant cult, in addition to just regular old aberrants, right? So, so we got some baleful touch going on. We got blast coming in from the cult leader. So, you know what? We'll just say, yeah, we're gonna have the cultists be the ones that came in, and we're gonna make it a little difficult for them to figure out that it's anything but that, um, or anything but the cultists are anything but regular aberrants. So we'll say the aberrants uh, used their own power to blast through the rock some sort of, we'll say, corruption fueled radiation beam. Make it sound good and scary. We'll say another clue will be that I'm just going to go ahead and make sure we've got clues for days here. All right. That way I've copied in the templates. Not going to lose our order or anything along those lines. All right. So where were we at here? Okay. So aberrants use their own power to blast through the rack with some sort of corruption fueled radiation beam. We will say about the aberrant attack was led by one individual who was roughly human sized and shaped. This person was dressed in elaborate. Do you want to say elaborate? Let's check the art. Again, this is kind of like why I work with art, right? So we'll say they were dressed in a robe, boots, and gloves. Purple robe. black boots and gloves. And we'll also say they wore ivory mask with intricate golden attachments, giving the impression of a sunburst or halo around their face. All right, so now this doesn't give us, this just gives us the physical description of the attack leader. And this individual was responsible. You know what? We'll make that a separate clue. I'll say the attacker. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here because we don't want to give away in the clues that the attackers are not aberrants. I don't know why I get tired every time I start doing this, but I do, so I apologize. It's probably all the talking to fill dead air. It is very, very exhausting, so that might be why. But it's funny to me. All right, so the attackers. How about the leader of the attack? And just let's put the leader was responsible for blasting through the rock. And what if maybe, just maybe, we say, how about the leader appeared to be so what I'm trying to sort of bait on that particular hook is maybe one of the higher level aberrants actually melted through like the majority of the rock. We just see the leader sort of blast their way out. That might be a tactic that the aberrants use to sort of hide their numbers. My impression here is that the aberrants are using their cultists to their advantage to hide their true nature. They're aware that these are humans that are on the asteroid. They're aware of the problems that the presence of aberrants is going to cause and of how that is going to escalate in the event that there are larger, more powerful aberrants seen. And it's a lot easier to deal with. In the event of a backlash, it's easier to deal with, a small security force that might be sent against, a group of relatively mundane aberrants, as opposed to the forces that might be mounted if, like, a Terrat level threat were to be present, right? So, it's like Tusken Raiders riding in single file to conceal their numbers, sort of. All right. So we have the leader appeared to be responsible for blasting through the rock. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna flesh out this first clue a little bit more because I don't want to make them gain like information separate. Well, okay. Okay. And this is one of the things that can be a little bit hairy as you're sort of putting out clues ahead of time, especially if you're doing like the formatting thing that I'm doing, because sometimes you want to rearrange them. But that's fine. We can make that work. Because I will say the aberrant attack was led by one individual who was roughly human size and shape. That person was dressed in a purple robe. So we're going to move this clue lower, right? So the leader appeared to be responsible for blasting through the rock, creating the aberrants. Means of egress. Is egress the word I want to use there? That's another fun thing about writing, especially when you start tossing in your 50-cent words, is you want to Google and make sure that you're using your words right. Yeah, direct means of going out of or leaving a place. So, how about entrance and egress? There we go. That covers both directions, right? So we have the leader appeared to be responsible for blasting through the rock down here now. So we will also say that, well, the leader commanded a dozen subservient aberrants who swarmed the base, causing mayhem and incapacitating most of the ICE employees. And what do we have for our so they have the baleful touch, right, is what the cultists are using. So I'm going to look that up real quick and just refresh myself on what exactly that does. I know it's basically yeah, creates a quantum level disruption of cellular processes when the aberrant attacks someone. And it does tend to be a lingering sort of thing. So we'll say in here, the leader commanded a dozen subservient aberrants to swarm the base, causing mayhem and incapacitating most of the employees. These subservient uh, folks how do I want to phrase this? I want to talk about their attacks, right? Like evidence that they might see of the attacks. Were armed with knives and their touch seemed to burn and their victims. How about these Syrian folks were armed with knives, though rarely used them, as their touch seems to burn their victims. Great. So that's an interesting point too. Like most of the time, the swarm was attacking with bare hands despite having knives on them. Um, and then I think our last clue, right? This is a lot of investigation to do here. Actually, let's do a couple more clues. Let's say um, the aberrants caused mayhem and destruction, but didn't take any technology or items. They, other than what the abducted employees were wearing at the time. So, in essence, what we're saying here is that this attack doesn't appear to be motivated by some sort of technical espionage or a desire to steal the items that ICE was using. This was just they were snatching the people, and if they got some tech in the process, great. So we got that handled, and then I want to put in a clue here too, just for let's put in two separate clues that the swarm um, moved and just the swarm. I want to convey like the swarm are subaberrants. How about we go with this? The swarm moved and behaved. How about this? Judging by the movements and behaviors of the swarm, they are likely low corruption aberrants or subaberrant mutants. So that basically means, you can ultimately get the clue to understand, like, oh, this is a smaller thing. And that might lead the characters to understand that there's a bigger threat waiting in the wings. Um, how about, and let's just spell it out in that clue. It's likely they're serving a more powerful entity. And then let's just, again, to spell it out, let's give them one more opportunity here. And then we'll say with this one, The leader, while powerful, also appears to be a low corruption aberrant or sub-aberrant mutant. Ooh. Watch that. Watch the formatting there, bro. Want to make sure it's not causing a problem. So also appears to be a low corruption aberrant or sub-aberrant mutant. Given the remote location and the amount of time ice has been present, on Nemesis, it's likely the about given the remote location and the amount of time ice has been present on Nemesis, this of the leader likely serves a more powerful and corrupted aberrant capable of maintaining an independent colony and hidden colony. Right? So yeah, I think it puts us in good shape. We've got our clues here. We've got the 3 core clues that they need to move forward. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional clues that they can pick up. The only other thing we want to make sure that we go through and note is whether or not Jennifer would know some of these clues. We'll say Jennifer didn't see this, as she wasn't in the area at the time. Yeah, we'll say Jennifer saw the leader before succumbing to the swarm, so she was aware of the leader's appearance, so she could give that description. Jennifer was overwhelmed by the swarm, but how about this? Jennifer wasn't overwhelmed. Jennifer escaped the swarm by detonating a small thermal grenade, which unfortunately knocked a small concussive grenade over some equipment and rubble to burying her. Okay. Yeah. So this way too, like let's say for example, um, the party's just really beelining straight towards the security desk, right? They just want to get into security. They're not fudging around with looking, trying to pick up clues, so on and so forth. This clue could also uh, be picked up like from the so they could pick up this clue from central security, see it on the monitors, and be like, "Oh, there's somebody trapped there," and then they go get the information that way. So it's a nice clue because it's sort of a Swiss Army clue. It can be plugged in a couple different ways. And thanks so much for the sub, Magister. Appreciate it. Welcome. Um, and while I'm thinking of it, we're at just about close to the hour mark, so I do want to once again remind you that all month long we are raising funds for our good friends over at Make a Wish as part of their Roll for Wishes campaign. We have reached our base fundraising goal, but I'm trying to crack through that ceiling, so let's see how many more we can get, right? If you have, every dollar helps. It's a huge, wonderful, good cause. If you're not familiar with Make a Wish, give them a Google. They do some very, very fine work for some people that are in very unfine situations. And then also speaking of charitable things, we do have the Scarred Lands 5e Bundle of Holding up at bundleofholding.com that gives a portion of its proceeds to the Bodhana Group. Bodhana Group is a wonderful charity that we've worked with on a number of occasions. And you can find more information about them at the Bodhana Group's website, which I've just shared in the chat. So now, all that being said, let's get back at it. Little drink. Okay, so we have two ways. Yeah, that's where I was. We have two ways they can come across this clue and Jennifer's relationship to the clue. So the leader appeared to be blasting through rock, creating aberrant means of entrance and egress. Jennifer did not witness this, so does not know. This is beyond Jennifer's knowledge. And let's see, Jennifer is unaware. So Jennifer can basically break down that the aberrant attack was led by one individual, and the individual commanded a swarm. The rest of this information Jennifer doesn't know because she was buried under rubble when it all happened. So she is distinctly unaware of those extra clues. So they'll require some other means of investigation. So now we have got our clues broken down. So we're going to add a little bit more guidance, just real basic guidance to the story guide. We're going to say, once characters have gathered their clues, and gathered and okay, how about once the characters have gathered their clues and are sufficiently satisfied with the investigation, they may proceed to scene 3. So, two things we want to make sure we communicate that I don't think we've communicated yet in this scene. We do want to point out um, okay. All right. We also want to point out that once, how about gaining access to central security also confirms that communications long range communications are out throughout the station. Repair is possible, but would take weeks. So we're kind of cutting off that avenue of like, well, I'm just going to call for backup. I'm not going to go fight aberrants by myself, like any reasonable person would probably do. We're cutting that a reasonable avenue of backing out off by basically saying long range communications are out and there's not enough time to fix them right now. So we're kind of railroading them a little bit towards scene 3, but that's okay. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, don't railroad your characters, and that's fine if you don't want to have a specific story in mind. But sometimes you need to build rails. Offering the illusion of choice is always a good idea. And again, I mean, there is an illusion of choice here, right? Like your party could decide, well, we're going to just take those weeks and try to repair this thing. We're going to plug the hole and we're going to, do all these other things. They can try those things, and that's fine. That is best left. That type of a scenario is best left for the individual story guide to figure out how they want to address it, because um, you can't plan for everything, and they know their players better than you do, and that's not the story you're trying to write. You're trying to tell a story that goes in a direction. Don't be afraid to do that. Yeah, that's all, I guess. All right, so now uh, we are up to scene 3. Scene 3 is about getting to and through the nest. I think we're shifting that a little bit. This is getting to the nest, really, getting through the tunnels. Following the trail of the aberrant's nest, overcoming natural and aberrant-made obstacles and pitfalls. Upon arrival, they must contend with the aberrant security force. So, um, no, I think we're going to switch that up a little bit. I think what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the tunnels. That's going to be the focus of scene 3. Um, but we are still going to keep the divergence in there as something to keep it interesting, right? So we're going to describe these tunnels. Okay, once the characters enter the tunnel network, or enter the tunnel when the characters enter the aberrant tunnel, they discover a Um, how about when the characters enter the hole left by the aberrants? They discover a tunnel approximately 3 meters in diameter. No, let's make it a little bit bigger. Uh, Moves to the south of the station. Can I give a direction? Let's see. I just want to go through and double check and see if there is some place earlier where I gave a direction to where the aberrant camp is in relation to. Yep, south. 10 kilometers south of the station. So we want to make sure that we're consistent that the tunnel that they're coming out of is pointing in the direction that the aberrant settlement would be in, right? So just going back, double checking that. Um, uh, Move southward in a gentle slope, and then we'll say that so their location where they blasted the ice and it created a problem was 10 kilometers south of Nemesis Station. But we can reasonably put the sort of core of the current aberrant settlement, maybe what they fell back to, because right, they were sort of in this crevasse that was covered by ice. They were able to, maintain their environment there through aberrant powers, whatever, so on and so forth. So, maybe they had a fallback point. It was probably 5 kilometers in, right? So we'll say the first 2 kilometers of the journey are relatively uneventful. We'll say the party sees clear signs of the recent passage by the ICE employees and their aberrant captors. We can say maybe like a few missing, or a few dropped items such as mini comps or ID badges leave a clear rail. Confirming the direction the captives were taken. Right. Okay. So, now we kind of have like a real clear idea of what's going on with that first couple kilometers of the tunnel. Do we want to do anything to spice those first couple kilometers up? I don't necessarily think so. I think maybe we kind of save it. We keep it. It's a tension builder, right? They're moving along this tunnel for like 2 kilometers. It's quiet. There's only like a little bit of scattered remnants. The items have been dropped. Maybe some blood. We can add some blood. Streaks and splatters. How about streaks and puddles? Puddles of blood. Appear sparsely throughout the tunnel. Indicating some of the captives were either injured in the initial attack or injured in transit. Right, so this dials up our stakes a little bit, right? Maybe the characters are like, well, fuck this, we're not going into the aberrant tunnel. Or we're not going further into this aberrant tunnel when they realize it's that long. But then they see, evidence of the survivors, evidence that the people who were taken are being harmed. There's blood. There's little bits, things they've dropped. Excuse me. So that compels them to press forward. And I just want to check real quick here. Nerdy shit that we Google while we're working on our stuff. I'm going to look up looking up in kilometers per hour how many what the average human walking pace is. Just sort of see if we can get that down. Okay, yeah. So if the average human walking speed of a person under the age of 30, according to Medical News Today, is 4.82 kilometers an hour. So if we really start the problems for them about 2 kilometers in, it's like a little under a half hour of movement inside. That's enough time, to build tension. And obviously, the story guide can hand wave the passage of some of that time. But that's enough to build tension, and not so much that like it beggars belief to say that people kept pressing on. Right? They walked for days. No, not like that. And that's not even anything that is going to make it into the story itself. I'm not going to make a note of that. necessarily. I'm just going to give distances, but that's me doing like a gut check and saying, okay, is this plausible? And I think so. Um, so in it goes. So we'll say the first 2 kilometers of the journey are relatively uneventful. The party sees clear signs of recent passage by the ICE employees and their errant captors. Few dropped items such as mini counts or ID badges leave a clear trail, confirming the directions the captors were taken. Streaks and puddle of blood. Some of the captors were either injured in the initial attack or injured in transit. So we got that sort of ominous, spooky first part. So now, at 2 kilometers in, the tunnel joins with a network of other tunnels which are roughly the same size and shape of the current tunnel. So kind of like the idea that there's been this network of tunnels underneath Nemesis for some time, but only recently have they bothered to extend that tunnel up and attack. Because this spoiler, these aberrants just want to be left alone. They had made their peaceful, quiet little colony off on their own in the asteroid belt, and they just don't have any reason to cause problems with other people. So they were living nice and happy until some water miner blew up their place. Okay, so 2 kilometers in, the tunnel joins a network of other tunnels, which are roughly the same size and shape of the current tunnel. It's a lot of words, and I might adjust it later, but we'll leave it for now. So we'll say the trail continues through this tunnel network, but requires a successful. Now we're going to look up in the, we're going to go over to the core rules. We're going to look for tracking, right? What kind of rules does someone make when they're tracking someone? So we could say survival and resolve. Or a successful survival plus resolve roll at difficulty 2. Or the use of a pertinent psi power to what do we want to say, aid in the investigation? Okay. Pertinent psi power to 2 kilometers in, the tunnel joins with a network of other tunnels, which are roughly the same size and shape of the current tunnel. The trail continues through this tunnel network, but requires successful survival plus resolve roll at difficulty 2, or the use of permanent psi power to stay on to continue pursuit. I'm going to stay on the trail. Stay on the trail. Failure leads the party into blind tunnel where they're ambushed. Where they're cut off and attacked by a number of divergent aberrants equal to the number of player characters. Right? So if they fail, if they fail on their tracking roll, they wander off, get stuck in a tunnel, and they get attacked. And we're going to just put a nice PXX here. Because we're going to go back in when we're all said and done, and we are going to point people back to this to the appropriate stat block, which will be over here, right? Our divergent. This is the first like real like fisticuffs of the sequence, right? They fight these divergents. If we want to make sure we have at least one solid combat scene in here, so I think we'll put it in here where if they successfully track, if the party successfully tracks the abductees through the tunnels, they travel an additional 3 kilometers through the labyrinthine, nice big word, through the labyrinthine maze, labyrinthine network before arriving at the outer edge of the settlement. Once there, the party is confronted by the number of divergent aberrants equal to the number of player characters. So basically, you're either going to get jumped in the well, either way, you're going to run into a bunch of divergents at the door. If you get lost in the tunnels, you get jumped by divergence 2. So Oh, actually, how about this? We'll say it's the same group of divergent aberrants, right? Because we don't want to make this a too highly populated aberrant colony. It's just, I guess, for reasons of it not making a lot of sense to me for there to be that many aberrants there. Just arbitrary reasoning, I suppose, but that's what I'm going with. If you'll just forgive me, I'm just expanding out what we've got so far, tacking on some extra pages. All right. So, we will say these aberrants have a negative attitude of style 4. Just gonna check the negative attitude scale real quick. Yeah, that sounds about right. Because if you look at on page 85 of Trinity Continuum Core, there's the intrigue chart, and it shows kind of the intensity of attitudes. A negative attitude of 4 is a hated enemy. That seems about fair for like where we're at. Oh, let's see. So where was I? All right, negative attitudes. Um, so yeah, the aberrants have a negative attitude of hostile 4 uh, against toward the party or the intruders. After all, let's be real, you're going up into somebody else's place and breaking the shit. Um, they fight until half their number are incapacitated. Half their number are taken out. Or the majority of the divergents are reduced to half health or lower. One of the things I like to try to do whenever I am writing in a fight, I think it's important to try to give sort of quick conditions for the enemies, or if there is no quick condition, if they fight until they die, specifically call that out, right? Um, it's very easy for story guys to fall into the trap of like enemies in role playing games fight to the death all the time, and that can get really stale real fast for one thing. But it also I think robs some of the drama and some of the I guess perceived agency of the antagonists. They're just sort of mindless enemies who fling themselves um, upon the powers of the player characters until they can't fling no more. It makes them kind of like one note, and I guess less interesting. If they have if there's a condition that causes them to run, that's cool. If there's a condition that causes them to pause, that's cool. If there's a condition, if that creates a second opportunity for the player characters to turn an enemy into a friend, or at the very least open a dialogue, that's cool. But just like I fight till I die, it's fine once in a while. But the majority of your enemies really shouldn't, I don't think, do that, especially in a game like Trinity Continuum, but really, really kind of anywhere. Um, you know, even in the grandiest dungeon crawl, some of those people should run. That's what morale rules are for, right? Okay. So now we have one more thing I want to try to get to before we wrap up this week, and that one more thing is we've now created kind of a broken link here, right? An off ramp for the story with this survival resolve roll at difficulty 2. So, because what we're saying here is if they fail this roll or don't use a psi, and they don't have a psi power that lets them track down their quarry, they get lost, they get attacked. Okay, then what? We have a infinite loop, right? Because they've already failed. They can't. So what we will add in then uh, after that is once the, or if the party defeats the aberrants, they may make a new check successful. They regain the trail. On a failure, they wander for, we'll say, an hour before finding the trail again. The story guide may add additional traps, pitfalls, and obstacles for the party to overcome during this period. Am I even typing on the screen? Nope, sure ain't. Sorry about that. Sometimes I lose track of where I'm at. We all do. It's a happy little mistake. All right. So the story guide may add additional traps, pitfalls, and obstacles for the party to overcome during this period of wandering. All right. So if the party successfully, so then we've got like, all right. So the if they get jumped and they defeat the aberrants, they get another roll. If they fail, they have to wander around a bit. If they succeed, they just get back on the trail. And then we need to figure out our condition if they lose consciousness, if the party is taken out. They awaken in the settlement. Under armed guard. They're fed and their wounds are treated before they're brought to the cult leader. And I'm going to set this off in asterisks here so that I don't forget to change it, because I would like them to have a name before this is all said and done. So the cult leader, random cultist 4. They're cutting their wounds treated before they're brought to the cult leader. At which point the story guide may proceed to scene 4. So scene 4 is going to be kind of a showdown, regardless. So irrelevant section of scene 4. So now we have a check they need to make, right? If they succeed on that check, they're going to face the divergence when they get to the village. If they fail that check, they're going to get lost wandering. Basically, that notifies the deviants who are standing guard who come and fight them in the tunnels. If they succeed, they get to make their way down. If they fail, they get knocked out, brought back to the city, get to make their way down. So it's kind of an illusion of choice, illusion of, an illusion of I don't want to say agency, because we're not taking away their agency, but we are. It's burying the rails, right? Like they're going this way, one way or the other. But we're giving some options in there for which way they get there and things along those lines, which I think is good. It's important in adventure design to give that sort of like, to make sure that everything feels like it does have a consequence, right? Because the role, it's a little flippant to say that the role for tracking doesn't have an effect on the game, because it does. It's going to change where that confrontation with the divergence takes place and what state the party is in when they arrive with the cult in scene 4. Same thing will also apply to the the other option, which is if they successfully track the abductees through the tunnels, they travel an additional 3 kilometers through the labyrinthine network before arriving at the outer edge of the aberrant settlement. Here they're going to fight the divergence again, and we're going to have a similar sort of breakdown. Like if they win, X; if they lose, Y. So we will also note, and this is one place where we're going to see a slight difference, right? Because the aberrant, the divergence shouldn't have a different attitude based on where they find the player characters. That's not going to matter. But their behavior is going to matter. They're going to fight harder at the front door. They don't want these people to get inside. So they fight until we'll say 3 members are taken out, or all of the divergence are reduced to half health or lower. Another thing it might not hurt to go in and pepper in here is what they do if these conditions are met, right? All right. So we're gonna say they'll fight until 3 members are taken out, or all the divergents are reduced to half health or lower. If either of these conditions are met, the divergents flee into the settlement, seeking shelter in the meeting hall. That's going to be where the cultists are going to be. It's going to be kind of where Scene 4's action is going to be set, right? And it's going to be kind of where the shit and the fan do the hitting of one another. All right, so we've got that, and I think we should just basically, we'll say, how about we're going to go back to that previous interaction, right? So if the party gets lost and they get ambushed by the divergence, we're gonna say the divergence will fight until half the number are taken out, or the majority of the divergence are reduced to half health or lower. Uh, if either of these conditions are met, the divergents flee back to the settlement. And resume combat when they arrive at the settlement gate. It's a bit of a simplification. Probably want to clean that up before we put it to press, but it'll be enough to get the idea across and get us out there right now. So, and now I want to look and see, do our divergents have an easy way of healing themselves? They've got armor. They have unseen. They have incapacitate quantum wave. Not really. No real easy way to heal themselves. Let's see if Aeon offers an easy way. So let's say. All right. Just looking up corruptions to see kind of like if there's cool things that they can all do to heal themselves. No, not really. Um, so we'll say the divergence. Yeah, they just turn tail and run until they get back to uh, the settlement and resume combat when they arrive at the settlement gate. Um, they- how about the divergence flee back to the settlement and call for the assistance of the call for assistance from the nemesis aberrant, right? Leave for assistant. Okay, so if the players lose their role and they get ambushed and they defeat half of the divergence or bring the majority of them to half their health or lower, the divergence will flee back to the settlement and call for assistance from the Nemesis aberrant. Um, Let me say, causing the party to fight any of the escaped divergence as well as the Nemesis when they arrive at the settlement gate. And the reason for that, right? Kind of my thoughts on that here. I am so sorry if I'm getting these out of the way. So my thoughts on this here are pretty simple. If they get jumped out in the tunnel network and they prove to be dangerous enough combatants that they're able to take out the majority of the divergence are going to run back to the settlement and be like, oh shit, there are people down here we do not want to mess with on our own. Please help. Right? Whereas the divergence standing guard at the gate, running into them there, they're going to be a little bit more confident. They're going to feel a little bit less backed into the wall, and they're probably going to kind of assume that the settlement will take care of itself and will respond accordingly if these intruders breach. So they'll be a little bit more likely to just turn tail and run at that point. It's kind of almost, they're going to almost be like in a false sense of security, right? Like if you're out in the wild, you're a little bit more, maybe a little bit more prone to, I don't want to say be cautious, but be reactive to threats, I guess. That's kind of my thinking. And I may come back and adjust that as we go, but I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty um, good way to handle that scene. I think we have enough sort of branching options in there to keep it interesting and to ensure that the story guide has everything that they need to do. So since we have wrapped up scene 3, I think that's probably what we're going to call it for today's stream. Um, As always, I appreciate you being here, whether you're watching live or in Memorex. It's very cool of you to be here. You can always shoot me questions if we're live during the chat. If we're not live, you can hit me up on social media. I'm at Travis Legge pretty much anywhere. So if you have a question, hit me up on social media. Hit me up on Discord if you're in the official Onyx Discord. I am on there, a couple times a week at least. So I'm happy to answer questions there. Couple of things, I guess, before we get out of here. A couple other reminders. I want to remind you that right now, this month, we are raising money for Make a Wish all month long for the Roll for Wishes campaign. We had a lovely stream the other night, yesterday, I guess, where we were able to meet and exceed our base goal, which was super cool. We are now at $25 over our base goal. I would like to see that number climb even further. So if you've not yet done so, please head over and give us a donation. Every dollar helps. It's a good cause. Next, I also want to remind you, speaking of good causes, that we have the bundle of holding this month for the Scarlands 5e. There's a basic bundle and an advanced bundle. The basic bundle has everything you need, like for in terms of core books. It's got Youngman's Guide, I believe, with it as well, and the Gauntlet Spirit Ghost trilogy. Whereas if you get the advanced bundle, you can get Dead Man's Rust, Visual Watch, a bunch of other cool expansions. It's worth the extra investment, if you ask me. And a portion of the proceeds go to the Bodhana Group. If you're not familiar with the Bodhana Group, I would suggest you go check them out over at their website, which I've just shared in the chat. And then the last thing that I want to call everybody's attention, I have started doing some pro GM work over at Start Playing. I got a couple of games scheduled right now, and I have a book me button. So you can head over and check out my profile over there. And if you want me to run a game for you, hit me up and we can get something sorted out, get something on the schedule. If schedules work out, happy to do it. Yeah, I think that's it for me for today. I know we're a little bit early, but like I said, we just wrapped up on that scene. This feels like a good stopping point, and I don't want to try to press us along further than I don't want to start a new scene and have to cut it 2 minutes into getting any work done on it. So, just to recap, I guess. We went through scene 2, broke down all the core clues, and the advanced clues that our players might be able to uh, access, learn throughout the course of the story. Everything that will eventually point them to scene 3, which is where they will descend into this sort of labyrinth of tunnels underneath Nemesis Station that ultimately points to the aberrant settlement. We've talked about how those aberrants are going to respond to intruders in their tunnels and how the story guide might address that, might deal with the various sort of tactics that the aberrants might use. We have options in case rolls are failed, and options for behaviors for the aberrants that the party is going to face. What else do I want to let you know? Oh, one last thing. I will not be here next week. Next week is Gamehole Con. I will be up in Madison, Wisconsin for Gamehole Con next week during this time. So if you're in the area, you should head over to Gamehole Con and come see me. I'll be at the Onyx Path table or running games for Onyx Path or wandering the floor, being a menace in general. You can head over there. They also do have some virtual events if you're not anywhere near Madison. So consider heading over there and checking that out. Having said that, I think that's time for me. So I will see you all in 2 weeks' time back here. Until then, be good yourselves and each other. Make sure that you're washing your hands, wearing your masks, getting your shots, all that fun stuff. And we will see you again real soon. Bye.